everyone, welcome. You're watching Fourth Estate right here on ZTN Prime, channel 294 on DSTV. This is the program where we tackle all things media and journalism, and I am your host, Wadzanayi Sansole. So please do feel free to join the conversation at ZTN Prime on our social media channels. Now, today on Fourth Estate, we turn the spotlight on an initiative from Zimpapers, the launch of the Zimpapers Training Institute, ZTI. This is a quest to bridge the gap between classroom theory and newsroom reality. In an era where journalism is being reshaped by the digital disruption, newsroom economics, and shifting audience expectations, the central question for the media industry is, how do we train journalists for tomorrow's newsroom today? And is this the beginning of a new model for journalism education, one rooted in the newsroom itself? Now, to unpack ZTI's vision, impact, and the potential to shape not just Zimpapers, but the future of Zimbabwean journalism, I'm joined by Limukani Ncube, the acting principal for Zimpapers Training Institute, ZTI, and he's joining us on Zoom. Hi, Limukani. Welcome to Fourth Estate. Thank you very much.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you very much for taking time to join us here.
Thank you.
Great. Could you just start by giving us insights on what exactly Zimpapers Training Institute is all about?
Right. Perhaps the starting point will be to say that in order for us to future-proof media practices in the country and beyond, we have to first of all understand, where the rain beat us. We have to try and sit down and say, where did we go wrong? Where are the gaps and where are the challenges? And where is the problem actually that we are facing now? That will be the starting point to discuss the Zimbabwe Media Training Institute, which came upon the realization that we had to put our heads together and set up a training institute that will try and address the gaps that we are seeing in the media industry as of now, and at the same time seek to future-proof the industry in terms of coming up with a training a regime that actually lays the foundation for the future.
Okay, great. So as you've explained what necessitated this establishment, and then when we look at the digital revolution and how it's drastically shifted the media landscape, how will the school prepare journalists for this transformation?
So basically, the starting point is to, like I said earlier on, that we want to future-proof the media industry. We obviously have to look at the shift in consumption patterns that we have witnessed when it comes to news consumption. We realize that there has been a massive shift from the legacy media into multimedia platforms, or should I say into the digital platforms. So the baseline is to train a journalist who is prepared or who is ready to tell stories on digital platforms, on all the digital platforms that are available.
So as these journalists will be telling their stories on the digital platforms that are available, is this also going to include things like podcasting, data journalism?
Yes, you are spot on. You cannot talk of the media now if you are not talking of platforms like your podcast. You obviously, if you are even looking at storytelling on digital platforms, for instance, how you then write stories for the websites. How do you write stories for social media? How do you even write stories even for WhatsApp? And how do you even package those kind of stories? Because you will realize that everyone is now on the go. People now consume news on the go. So the inclination now is to be able to write, to package how perhaps you write a story with about 800 words for your print edition, but try to compress that story for your online platforms in 200 words or less, so that someone is able to read the story as they are sitting in a combi, or as they are sitting in a vehicle, and still be able to get the gist of the story and understand what we are talking about. You also realize that is the consumption of digital products continues to expand across the country. Most of the people now prefer to actually view, the news than to read the news. So the packaging should also include your videos and also your pictures, because videos and pictures, they actually tell 1,000 words in just a short format. So that's what we seek to do.
Okay, and I suppose it works well with people whose concentration span is actually short, isn't it? Now, there has been criticism that's flying around the issue of schools heavily relying on models that are seen to be outdated, and some theoretical models that haven't been keeping up with the industry demands. Is ZTI an attempt to bypass these traditional models and offer more practical in-house training?
What we want to do as the Zimpapers Training Institute, we want to offer our students or our learners more time in our newsrooms, in our studios, in our various departments, depending on the courses that they will have chosen, so that they gain that practical experience. Of course, we do understand that the theoretical background is also important, but we also want to infuse that and give some more heavy load when it comes to the theoretical aspect of it. And we are ready, because we already have the newsrooms that are operational and with experienced personnel. We have TV station that's operational with experienced personnel. We have a number of radio stations with them that are operational with experienced personnel. Even if it comes to your marketing or digital marketing, we also have those departments that are dealing with those issues on daily basis. So we believe that we are a better positioned actually to deliver a more polished product. But that is not to say that the other training institutions that are there are not doing a good job. But what we want to do as the Zimpapers Training Institute is also to add on and complement what they are doing, but offer more, because we are already in the industry and we know what is missing from the graduates that we receive from the various training institutions locally and abroad.
Okay, so Limukani, as you're just talking about the experienced professionals that are already out there in the industry, is this training program also going to be available to reskill veteran journalists that do not have any digital training?
What we're going to do is we have a diploma in print and broadcast journalism, a diploma in radio, TV, and film production, but we are also going to have short courses that are tailor-made for upskilling or career improvement, whereby someone can enroll for a short course, perhaps for video editing, for animation, for graphic designing, for script writing. So just to upskill, to help people to upskill, and also even focus on the newer aspects of journalism, like your digital journalism, like your entrepreneurial journalism, and data journalism, which you mentioned earlier on. And I think what's also interesting is that most of the trainers who are going to be delivering content or taking through students in the Zimpapers Training Institute are actually practicing media practitioners within Zimpapers. We have got the first-hand experience of what actually happens, in the day-to-day operations of the newsroom.
Okay, and then how about specialized reporting, Limukani? Are you also going to focus on things like reporting on climate, business, finance, health, the likes?
Yes, definitely. Yes, definitely. We are obviously, like I said, we want to give more than what the mainstream training institutions offer, which is just a basic, should I say, the entry or the basic journalism course. We want to offer more by looking at what is actually required in the newsroom as of today, and issues to do with climate change, issues to do with financial reporting are coming in quite heavily now. You will realize that you obviously, we have a lot of guys who actually write well as they unpack financial issues. Perhaps what they would then need to do is just to come in for a short course, just to understand the journalism part of it. But they already have the knowledge and the expertise from the finance sector. So what they basically need is just the journalism part of it, so that they are actually able to unpack issues properly.
All right, and then as this has been advertised on various platforms, critics might actually ask, is this about adaptability, or is this just about creating a steady pipeline for newsroom-ready talent for Zimpapers only? For example, major international news organizations such as BBC and SABC have career portals and media academies that support the next generation, right? Is ZTI aiming for a similar program?
Of course, we want to capacitate not only our own practitioners at Zimpapers, but we are offering our service to the public out there. And as you might be aware, Zimpapers for the past 2 years we have been running a Zimpapers Junior Media Club, where we're actually partnering with schools, going to schools to teach those learners who are actually part of their media clubs in those schools the ropes of journalism. So yes, that is the idea, to go big in terms of producing the future stars of this profession.
All right, and then on the issue of collaboration, are you planning on bringing in experienced editors and producers as part of the training model?
Yes, there are some instances where we might discover that we do not have the expertise, or we do not have the right experience. So obviously, we then reach out to other professionals to then come in and deal with particular modules that we we might feel that perhaps in-house we do not have the right experience or the right capacity to take those particular modules.
All right, so how crucial is mentorship in journalism generally?
Well, it's crucial, I believe. Just like any other profession, I think you obviously have to learn it from the best. I think mentorship is all about learning it from the best and having the right people to hold your hand right through the learning process. So we believe that the Zimpapers Training Institute actually offers the right mentorship, because we already have experienced journalists, experienced editors, experienced broadcasters for television and radio. I've said before, who can actually come in, actually train would-be journalists in class, and also train them practically in a proper work environment. Because as I said, our programs or our courses, they include both the theoretical aspect and the practical aspect. But obviously, what sets us apart from the rest is that we lean more on the practical aspect of learning.
Right, and then Limukani, if you look at the fact that a lot of people have access to the internet and smartphones now, and recently Zimbabwe had a debate on social media on what actually classifies a journalist, what actually doesn't classify one to be a journalist, and it's sort of leading people to then shun formal training. What's your response to this?
Well, I think it's not true to say that anyone with an access to data and a cell phone and a smartphone is a journalist. We are all born with the gift of the voice, isn't? We are all born with the gift to speak, isn't? But that doesn't make us broadcasters, isn't? It certainly doesn't. So for you to be a journalist, you obviously have to go through the mill and have go through a training so that at least you are able to understand, because journalism is a profession. In as much as it is an art, it is also a profession. So you need to be trained to be a journalist.
Okay, and then still on that, and if you look at how students and most journalists actually want to share their craft and their stories with the world, but may not necessarily have the platform to do that, do you think ZTI is going to be actually going to help to bridge the gap and actually be a platform where other people can share their stories?
Yes, definitely. We have a lot of platforms that we have as Zimpapers, which is basically the motherhood of the Zimpapers Training Institute. So those newspapers, as it were, radio stations, TV, both print and digital, they are actually at our disposal, where our learners are going to be practicing and actually having their work published on those platforms. You will also recall that through the Zimpapers Junior Media Club, we have been affording space in our various newspapers to learners, or should I say students from various high schools across the country, to actually write their own articles and have them published, so at least they get a feel, of how the industry works, and they are also given that platform to also air their views, their experiences, and also articulate, their fears, and as well as what they like and their hopes for the future, and their experiences that they are going through at present.
And then looking at the media landscape and how some journalists may have access to other platforms and how they can actually collaborate with other people and have become content creators, brand builders, and media entrepreneurs. When you look at ZTI, do you actually think you're going to be able to incorporate the entrepreneurial training into your curriculum?
Yes, definitely. The entrepreneurial journalism module is also one of the major aspects that we have, and we want to roll it out across the country. I think from June, July, thereabout, we want to roll it out. But of course, it will come in as a short course and not as a longer training module, as it were. But yeah, we want to do that as well, because we realize that there are many people who want to be journalists, and not all of us are fortunate enough to be attached or to be employed by media houses. But people can still use their skill, they can still use their journalistic talent to make a living out of it, and that's where entrepreneurial journalism comes in. But of course, people have to be trained, and they have to know the do's and don'ts. They have to know the right and the wrongs as they go about their business.
All right, and then speaking of making a living out of your career, how important is it to train journalists to not just become storytellers, but to actually build sustainable careers?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think that's where entrepreneurship journalism comes in, so that people are able to sustain their livelihoods. So it doesn't mean that if you are not attached to any media house, you then have to abandon your passion of being a journalist. There are many ways of earning a living as a journalist, and you can be a content creator, and you can be writing for other organizations out there, and getting payments in return for that kind of work in a proper and ethical and legal way.
All right, and then when we look at the gifting that most journalists have, brilliant ideas and awesome content that they create, but unfortunately not everybody knows how to actually write an application to get a grant, because the issue of funding has been something that's been a challenge a lot in Zimbabwe. Will you be offering strategies on how these can actually be done?
So that will then be a part of the entrepreneurship journalism module that we talked about, where people or where journalists who are in the mainstream media or even not in the mainstream media, they are actually given tips and they are given pointers on how they can get grants from organizations out there, be it for investigative journalism pieces, be it for climate articles, or be it for gender based violence articles, because there are many organizations that actually support that kind of work, and they want to see, and they are readily available to give a motivation so that journalists actually work on those particular stories. So yeah, that's one area that we have to work on a serious note.
Okay, and then one of the other serious things, Limukani, is this issue of fact-checking and people chasing lies at the expense of actually telling the truth. And so when your program rolls out, how are you actually going to be balancing the whole fact-checking and ethics and media literacy as you focus on the curriculum?
Obviously, fact-checking is part of basic journalism. It's part of the ethics of journalism. Is part of media law. That is one aspect that has to be that has to cut across all the courses that we are offering. Whether you are doing print, whether you want to specialize on radio, television, or film, ethics are quite key, and fact-checking is quite key, because if you don't do fact-checking, you are not different from anyone else there out there who has got data and a cell phone. Perhaps what actually should separate a trained journalist and someone who is not a trained journalist is the issue of fact-checking, because that is what is key to journalism, because you have to make sure that you are accurate, you have to make sure that you are balanced, you have to make sure that you are fair. That's so fact-checking is very, very important, and it goes up the ladder in terms of the priorities when it comes to journalism.
Okay, and then so balancing your version of fact-checking and fact-checking on AI, because someone can say, okay, I verified this history of this thing, I just Googled the thing and these are the facts, and then there's this thing on the training side. How are you actually going to balance that?
What we have to understand is that when it comes to artificial intelligence basically also needs that human element. So it's basically three things. It's the human element first, and then AI in the middle, and then the human element coming in thirdly. So you obviously cannot say that I used the AI to fact check and then you leave it there. You also have to look at it again and see whether what you have discovered via AI is what it truly is. So the human element is also very much important, and that is one aspect that we always implore to all our journalists across, to say that you might want to use AI, you might use AI, but the human element is still very much needed.
All right, thank you very much, Limukani. That was very clear. I think before you leave, could you just share where one can contact you if they want to enroll in one of your programs?
Oh, okay. So we are available. Just want to check the right. So I'm just trying to check our email address, which people can use so as to apply. It's basically Zimpapers Training Institute. Zimpapers Training Institute .co.zw.
Much, and thank you so much for your time here on Fourth Estate.
Thanks. Babe, before we go, maybe let me just go through that email again. It's Zimpapers Training at zimpapers.co.zw. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and we will share that information on our social media platforms as well. We have come to the end of our program. Thank you very much for staying tuned, and do tune in again next week, same time. I'm Wadzanayi Sansole.